All right, so we announced Nomad Capitalist Live earlier this year. It's going to be in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And one thing that people have asked is why don't you go back to hosting Nomad Capitalist Live in Mexico? And so I'm going to address that. There's a couple of reasons why that's the case. The first reason is very simply, I like people, we've always had a lot of Americans and Canadians in the audience. And yet, we're not the American capitalist or the Canadian capitalist. We're the Nomad Capitalist. And I mean, I haven't set foot in the US for close to 7 years. I haven't really lived there for over a decade. And it's changed my life in some very incredible ways. And I would be doing a disservice to people if we had the event in Austin or in Orlando, and I'll tell you why that's not possible, even if I wanted to in a minute. But I just think getting out into the world and seeing new places is worthwhile. And as I have had a home in Kuala Lumpur for a decade now, and I'm a believer that's a great value destination, I think I want people to see it. So that's the first reason. I just think it would be inauthentic to be the Nomad Capitalist and have the event in West Palm Beach. It's just not what I'm about. So why don't we have it in Mexico? Part of the reason is we had 40% of the audience last year was from the U.S., which was the lowest it's been, but that meant that the audience was more diverse and you get to meet people from all around the world. I want people to come. I look at Nomad Capitalist Live as a curated, not only slate of speakers and panelists, and we've planned so far ahead this year, it's far and away will be the best event ever, because we've planned even every panel, every speech down to the tiniest detail. And we're going to be covering so many different countries. We've got people coming, just speakers and panelists from like 25 different countries, including some you would really not be able to meet people from elsewhere. And that's easier in Malaysia. It is harder to get American speakers to come to Malaysia, but quite frankly, it's hard to get American speakers to leave the United States. I never understood why flying from Los Angeles to Mexico City was so much more of a schlep that they wanted to triple the price versus flying from Los Angeles to Boston. Mexico City's closer. So I think that we want to get our brand and we want to get our audience away from that kind of isolated thinking. And by being in Kuala Lumpur, we have access to great people from all over Asia, Africa, and Europe, because it's just as close for them to come to Kuala Lumpur as it is for Mexico. And so, I think for the service of the Americans and Canadians who come, for whom, they're the ones having to Mexico would be better for, they're going to benefit from hearing from a much more diverse group of speakers and a much more diverse audience, so you can actually get some ideas about what to do. When we were in Cancun or Playa del Carmen the first year, it was a great event. But, what I don't want to encourage is among there's a small number of people every year who come, we call it the 8%, and they try and stir up complaints about oh, what about Biden? And for me, we want to transcend that, because I don't sit around thinking about all the problems. I think about them because you tell me about them, but I don't sit around oh my God, this Biden is ruining my life. I'm past that. And everyone who's on the other side of, they've moved out, they're living overseas, their money's overseas, maybe they've renounced their citizenship. I don't care about Biden anymore. I'm done with that. We've moved on. So I don't want to be in an environment where we have too many people from one place where we just kind of encourage that thing. And I think being a place where I have a home, we're going to have a bit more merch for you this year. We're going to be arranging a number of things in advance. If we go to Mexico, we don't have a facility. I guess we could figure out renting a storage place, but it's so easy. I've got space. We store it in my staff quarters in my house. And, there's more flexibility. I get here early. Everything just runs more smoothly. And the Majestic Hotel, honestly, the one hotel we've ever had an event at that I'm just yeah, this is working beautifully the entire time. They did a great job. They're easy to communicate with. They really care. It's a great hotel. And by the way, it is about 60% less than some of the comparative hotels we looked at in Mexico. And much more flexible in terms of you don't have to eat all day. This is not an event where you come and eat, drink. We have a number of cocktail parties. We've got 2 big cocktail parties. We've got a full lunch every day. We've got 1 big gala dinner. We've got breakfast every day. We've got snack breaks. There's a lot of food. but we have more flexibility in the kind of hotel you have in Asia. And for you, the guest, it's about 60% less to book. I think it's like $130 a night, tax included, breakfast included, like everything out the door, $130. That's the price of like a Hilton Garden Inn in Ardmore, Oklahoma, for a beautiful, full of character hotel. You can't get that in Mexico. We looked all over Latin America. You can't get that. And as much as Nomad Capitalist Live in Mexico City was also a great event, that hotel, it could have been anywhere. It's a Hyatt Regency, I think. It could have been the Hyatt Regency in Kabul once you're inside, for all you know. I mean, beautiful area outside, great neighborhood. But the Majestic is so full of character, and we have not found anything equivalent for anywhere near the price in Mexico. And so I just think the overall experience, great hotel, great food, much lower price, diverse audience, that's worth it. Now, here's the next issue. Visas are always an issue. So why don't we host our event in the United States? Number one, it's just against my ethos, just in terms of where I want to go. Former U.S. citizen. I don't know if they want me to go. Not because I'm a former U.S. citizen, but because of specifically what we talk, what I do. And listen, maybe they do, but I just wouldn't want to go. Like I would just, are they going to be like, oh yeah, you're coming for your event? Ha ha ha, you can't come in. The bigger issue in the U.S. is, our staff. Now we have folks who are from Ireland, who are from the UK, who are from, some other Western countries. But obviously a lot of our team, including a lot of the subject matter experts that are going to be speaking, are from countries Serbia, Georgia, Armenia, Colombia. They need U.S. visas. And a couple of them have them. But for the ones that don't, it's a hard visa to get. In some of their countries, you have to wait a year just to get an appointment. And then who knows if they give it to you or not. I mean, some of these people are single. Many of them are younger. It's one of the hardest visas in the world to get. And if you're from the U.S. or some other Western country, you may not understand that. That's a challenge. On top of that, we saw in Malaysia, we had people coming from all over the world, including guests who would need a U.S. visa. Now, maybe some of them have it because they're successful business people. I'm not saying nobody from some of these countries gets U.S. visas, but I'm saying, when you have a job and you make, $45,000 a year in Georgia and you're single and 25 years old, they're like, oh, she wants to come and get married. That's not how it works in the rest of the world. So I just think, being able to have people from as many places as possible is valuable. Here's why Mexico in particular, though. 2022. So 2021, we had a largely Balkan team, Serbia and I think Montenegro come in 2021. They go to the embassy in Belgrade. Everything's nice, easy peasy, off you go. In 2022, diversified the team. We had 6 Georgians we wanted to bring. So they went to Istanbul to the consulate. That's the nearest one for them. There's not a Mexican embassy in Georgia. So they go to Istanbul, and they all stay in my house, 6 of them. One of them goes and gets the visa. She's the singer. Okay, great. The singer has a visa. He said, hey, are you with these other 5 people? She said, yeah. Tell them all to come tomorrow. They don't have to wait. There are different days. Just all of them come tomorrow at 1 o'clock, for example. They all show up. They submit their paperwork. The chief financial officer of the company is, incredibly detailed, down to the letter of what they want. And the woman's just arguing with her everything they say. The woman behind the counter gets frustrated. All right, you come back later. And they're not the only ones. There's other people. There's Turks. There's other people coming. They come back at whatever time after lunch, and they say, the woman shouts at them, you get out of here. You're all rejected. Get the hell out. And they go downstairs, and the security guard's like, what happened? He's like, I don't know. She just told us to get out. He's like, yeah, she gets ornery sometimes. And so 5 of them, they just couldn't come. Mexico has a stringent visa policy. Now, for Georgians, here's why. Because there are some boneheaded Georgians who are flying to Mexico and they're trying to get into the U.S. Mexico, and if you live in the U.S. and you think Mexico just lets everybody, please come on in, it's really not that easy. In fact, every time I go there, the last couple of years, there's something about, like, I think because I had a Mexican residence permit when I was a U.S. citizen and now I'm not, they're kind of confused. And it's always like, sit over here while we figure it out. And they're always nice at the end, but it's just annoying. It's the only place where I have that problem. And so I don't know what they think. I mean, obviously, if I wanted to cross into the U.S., I would have just kept my citizenship. But, for the team, the chief financial officer of a company wants to become a housekeeper in Tucson. Really? But, that's their thought. And so they have a certain bias against some of these countries. And, I mean, our Georgian team, again, we have Rusadan is the CFO, and she runs all of our companies around the world. She is an incredibly unique role that she's going to talk about. Like, what are the problems that we deal with? You can ask her questions like, how do you run a company that has, entities all around the world, that's making payroll around the world, like all the different issues to take care of. Like, if you know how to avoid the problems that we've solved for ourselves, you're going to have a lot easier time going offshore. In Malaysia, only like 6 or 7 countries need a visa. Colombian girl does. The Serbians do. There's a couple Serbians coming this year, but it's like the Malaysian embassies. They're so nice. I remember my wife went to one of the embassies once, and they had, she said, like, they had like you could wash your feet when you came in. Like, oh, do you want to wash your feet? Like, they're nice. I'm like, they're not shouting at you to get the hell out. So they get it, and they've all had Malaysian visas before. It's like, all right, here's your visa. Thank you. Have a nice day. And I think Somali, no. Maybe Nigerians. There's like 6 countries in the world that need visas to come to Malaysia. Everybody else doesn't have to. So, Mexico is more restrictive. The U.S. and Australia, like, those are the most restrictive. But, I mean, Mexico, for some of the people who are coming to our events, is more difficult to come to. And for our team, Hatia in HR, I mean, how do you build a global team? She does the work some days of like 5 normal HR people in terms of recruiting from all around the world. You want to know about different cultures. You want to know about, how to work, how to talk to different people, how to hire, even how to live in some of these places, because you get the vibe. She gave a great speech last year, and we're going to have her do a little bit more this year. Those are 2 areas, Rusadan and Hatia, I want you to know about. You wouldn't know about it if it were in Mexico. That's quite simply the answer. And I think that it's a reflection of where we want to go as a company. We've had amazing clients this year. From Brazil, from Argentina, from Vietnam, from Thailand, from I think a few places in Eastern Europe, like all of the places, and then Western Europe, of course. I mean, like, we've really become a company that people from all around the world come to and know. And I think that Mexico, by the way, in Mexico, we had a VIP, I think. I didn't know about it until afterwards. We had a VIP. They wouldn't even let him into the country. The guy's flying in from somewhere far away, and they just turned him away. They told me after the event in 2022, they turned him away. So, and by the way, even like some Americans, I mean, if you come down there for too long now, I hear they're getting difficult. I love Mexico. I really do. And I've said that. I just think to run an event where you want to make sure as many people as possible can come, and there's just absolutely no worries, and you can just get ready for the event a long time in advance, and you can, store stuff. Just everyone works. I mean, Malaysians are some of the kindest people, and there's no language barrier that you'd have sometimes in Mexico where you'd ask people to be moving tables and they'd be confused. In Malaysia, just stuff runs much more seamlessly. And I think really the bonus of where we want to go is this should be the most curated group of high-level international thinkers and global citizens and nomad capitalists. And that's what we put together. I think we really made great strides on that in 2023 by having it in Kuala Lumpur. And, tell your friends, because we've got some great packages. If you bring your spouse, if you bring, a group of 4 people, I think this is, people should see Kuala Lumpur as a place to live. You should go next door to Singapore and check out banks and gold and see how that feels. You should potentially go further afield into Asia. I mean, if you're coming from far away, make a trip out of it. But that's why we're not doing it in Mexico. I kind of think, there's certain events that are hosted in the same place for a while. And we're going to look for places that are a better value. But Kuala Lumpur is our place. It's been my place for a long time. It is uniquely ours in some ways. And it's a great experience. And if I don't find something that's a better value, I'd be tempted to keep it there. I think the people who value 36 plus different speakers, I mean, it's going to be the best lineup ever. We want you to come. I mean, those people who value it will come. And it's more accessible to people because it is so affordable. So there's an answer. Why is it not in Mexico? Maybe it will be at some point in the future, but those are the reasons for now.